What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're taking a look at PGA Tour here from EA, and this is with the EA Play membership on Steam. So you get a couple days early access and 10 hours free trial. Now I was curious to see how this would run here on the Steam Deck with a few different settings. So let's go ahead and jump into it and take a look. Now, the first thing that I do want to mention is when I was installing this game, I could not get it to install from game mode no matter what. Now, this could be remedied pretty quickly, but I did want to mention it here that I had to go to desktop mode to install the game. Then I was able to come back to game mode and launch it just fine with no forced proton layers or anything like that. As far as settings, I've got everything basically knocked down as low as I can here in 800p to see what we can get out of the performance first. And then we'll take a look at some other settings here as well. But with these settings jumping into the game, surprisingly, of course, you're not going to get a 60 FPS experience out of the game unless maybe you want to drop your resolution, which I just don't think is worth it. It runs pretty well. You've got a lot of load in and some pop in and stuff with these lower settings, but there's no stuttering or major issues. I can zoom in here, I can pan around the map and do whatever I need to do without like those major hiccups and stutters on various different courses, which was good. That was one thing I was concerned about because these can be CPU intensive. So no major issues, no major like input lag, stuttering problems, nothing like that. And able to play the game pretty decently. What you will notice is some of the distracting things with, like, I'm talking about load in and pop in and things that happen because it's really just not loading everything in out in the distance. So you see the crowd pop in here as you hit the ball and stuff like that. It's probably not a big deal for the most part, but you can raise some settings to stop that. Now let's take a look at 40 FPS cap, because you would think with that last round you saw there in the higher FPS you could cap 40, but not necessarily. There are some courses like this that even with all those low settings and a 40 FPS cap, that you're gonna suffer and go under 40 FPS. Again, it's a golf game. I don't think that's gonna be a real big deal, but don't expect to just lower everything and be able to cap 40 all the time. I think 30 FPS cap is going to really be the way to go here. You can see we do get back to 40 on the fairway, and there's going to be different performance depending on what round you're on, what map you're on. So I'm just showing examples here, but 40 FPS isn't going to be something you do all the time, but you can certainly do it some of the time. Now, I did go to a 30 FPS cap, but just for getting rid of some of those pop-in and load-in issues, I upped the settings to basically a mix of high, medium here, mostly medium, with keeping motion blur and stuff off, and I put ambient occlusion back on, which did hurt the frame rate a little bit. I could have held 30 better if I didn't do that, so you could turn that off, but you get rid of all that load-in and pop-in here. As you see me go back and forth, and the crowds are already loaded in, the trees are there, and it kind of takes away some of that distraction and looks a little bit better here on the deck. I think I would go with these settings with ambient occlusion off and a 30 FPS cap and pretty much play the game that way and get a nice experience out of it. It's going to look a little better and perform decently at 30 for this game. But if you wanted to lower the settings and just run variable or push up a little bit higher, you could certainly do that. You'll just be dealing with some of that load in and pop in that's going to be happening there. So that's pretty much how I'd play the game if I was playing on Steam Deck. I'm happy to see it running at all. You just never know, and it certainly isn't verified yet or anything like that. So I was happy that it at least was running and going. The only issues I had, of course, was that install problem I mentioned. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.